Welcome to the patchwork plot. Today is October 21st, 2023, and today we are going to be repotting some of our small citrus trees from their nursery pots that they came in into air pruning pots. The reason we're doing this is last winter, most of our citrus trees, we overwintered in their nursery pots, and we had a bit of a root rot problem. We live in an area where it snows and freezes basically everywhere from November through March. So we have to bring all of our citrus trees inside. We can't keep any in the ground or outside. We just keep them under a grow light in the garage or a utility room in the basement. So most everyone that's grown citrus in containers before recommends not keeping the trees in their nursery pots. They don't drain very well. This is a good example right here. This is our blood orange. We only got this one this summer actually, so we didn't overwinter it. But before recording the video, we pulled this out and it actually has some root rot already. At the bottom, there's only a couple holes, one in the center and some on the sides. So the problem is, when you water these and it's not very hot and they're not uptaking a lot of water, that soil is going to stay moist. Especially at the bottom, it's not going to drain. There's going to be a thin layer just because of surface tension. And citrus trees don't like their feet wet and they'll root rot easy. So we thought we'd try out something completely different. We bought these air pruning pots. The idea being that the entire outside of the pot is covered in holes, allowing the soil to breathe. And roots will actually grow out through these points just because of the way they're shaped and prune themselves once they reach the air, rather than winding and winding and winding around. On the bottom as well, they have a ton of holes, and most importantly, they keep the roots elevated above the ground. So any excess water flushes out and it's not going to have anywhere that it's actually sitting. Unless you have 2 inches of standing water here, but if you have that much water, you're probably flooding everything around your pots anyway. So we have 2 different kinds. This specific one is the brand Repot, and this specific one is an Ultra Oxy Pot. They do have some slight differences. We'll show you specifics on the differences between both of them in another video, but essentially, they're both running on the same concept. Tons of holes on the bottom, tons of holes on the side. But they come in all sorts of sizes. I think this is a 2 gallon. I got a 1 gallon. Then you get a little tiny one for basically starting plants and then transplanting them in the spring. And then this larger one is, I think it's about a 5 gallon equivalent, so we'll be using these today. So we already did this one. This is a Calamondin. This is in a 3.5 gallon pot. We didn't fill it with dirt all the way just because this had such a small root system. This one never actually had any root rot, but we figure we don't want to chance it and we'll transplant basically everything we have. These pots are really easy to put together. They actually come shipped in a flat box. You have the base, you have the sidewall, and then you have 2 screws per pot. To put it together, put the base in the center on the first row up, fold over 1/2, fold the other half on top. They'll snap together a little bit, and then you just take 1 screw, screw it in at the bottom. I think you could do either the first hole or the second hole, probably doesn't matter too much. And then the next one at the top. And that's it. For this pot, on the larger one, it actually is supported in the center instead of just the sides. So this thing will never collapse and pop out on you. And these pots are slightly wider than the nursery pots. We'll take a little bit of dirt off the bottom of the root ball here, but these should be a good fit. The two plants we're gonna pot up today are the blood orange we talked about at first, and then this one is a variegated pink lemon. And if you haven't seen these before, they have beautiful striped fruit, and they're supposed to be pink on the inside. First thing we'll do is take the plant out of the pot and see how the root ball looks. Doesn't look too bad compared to the blood orange, but if you look close, you can actually see some of these roots are shriveled up and are definitely not alive anymore. But there are some good ones mixed in. One thing you'll notice too is this dirt or this soil feels pretty much like fine sawdust, and I don't think it's really a good citrus soil. We have some cactus and tropical mix and some perlite that we're going to mix up. We won't completely bare root this plant, but we will rough up the sides, see if we can get off any of the dead roots that we can see, and then put it in the pot and mostly put new soil around it. Yeah, you can actually tell that there's a lot of soil in here that has no live root structure in it. So once this stays wet, once this gets wet, it just stays wet. But inside you can see there's a lot of good root structure. Height looks about right. Pot's definitely a bit wider than the plant, but I think it'll grow into it without much problem. We'll just have to keep an eye on how much water we give it at the beginning of winter, because it's not going to be using very much. So if you look close, you can see some of these roots. They look a little bit deflated. I think that's the best word I could describe them with. That means they were alive, but they're not now. Something like this is more what I want to see. It actually has color. It's alive right here, but you can tell at the very bottom, it's dead. So I'm going to take a few minutes, pull out some of the dead ones that I can see, and then we'll get ready to put it in this new pot. So I went through and removed as much of the rotten roots as I could. I think we're in a pretty good place to go ahead and plant this now. Now, we're not professionals, and I'm sure you can find a much higher quality citrus mix than us, but compared to what we had before, they should be pretty good. I think this is a good base. The size of the material is much larger than the soil we had in the pot before, so it'll be a good start for drainage. We'll put a little bit of the Fertilome cactus mix in. The material's smaller, it'll hold on to a little bit of water. We don't want to have it all drain out. And then we'll mix in a little bit of perlite just to help with drainage. So let's get to it. Now I'm not going to measure this exactly, I'm just going to eyeball it and we'll see how it goes. All right, that should be enough to get started. We'll definitely have to mix up some more to finish going in the pot, but let's get started. One thing we noticed on the first one is that if you put the soil in when it's completely dry, a lot of it's going to come shooting out these holes on the side. So soak it a little bit before you put it in. Yeah, you can see some came out the bottom, but we're not going to worry about that. Get it pushed around the sides, make some room for that root ball. Let's see how it fits. That looks good. We'll be able to have just the very top of that root flare exposed with some headroom on the top of the pot. Pretty much done here. Kept those 4 roots that were at the top of the root flare, keeping them towards the top of the soil, just to help it grow out and stabilize the top. Just to have a little bit of exposure on those top roots, but not too much. I think we'll leave it there for now, and it'll probably settle a little bit. You might need to tilt the tree after a week, put some more dirt on one side if it starts leaning. When we were finishing potting up the other plant, we realized we're not actually going to have enough soil to do this one today, but I wanted to pull this out of the pot and show you the state of the roots and actually how little of it is being used. There's a lot of dead ones down here and actually in the bottom of the pot. There's some good ones here, but if you put it on the ground next to the pot, you see actually how much of that pot is not being used and is just holding water. So we'll put it back in for now, and we'll get that one tomorrow. We'll give you a little tour of all of them. So starting in the front, we have a calamondin, a Nagami kumquat that's seen better days, but it looks like it'll come back. It's going to be a really weird shape though. Clementine mandarin right here. Nice little plant. We got a Meyer lemon with a bunch of small lemons ripening up. Looks like they're done growing because they're turning yellow and they're not green anymore. Another Meyer lemon we rescued from Home Depot this summer. In the back we have a grapefruit. No fruits on this one. We bought it this year after springtime, so there were no flowers on it. Hopefully spring 2024 it flowers for us. A Wari mandarin, same thing, we bought this one this year. A Moro blood orange, you can see lots of leafless branches in the middle of this one. This is the one that had, I think, the worst root rot. Minus the kumquat, but that was earlier in the season. So hopefully this one gets happy. Next we have a variegated pink lemon. Lots of flowers and fruits on this one. It's basically been flowering all summer and is about to open up a bunch more. Some larger ones over here, more flowers coming. And then over on this side we have a cluster of small ones. Plant hasn't dropped any of them yet, so hopefully it keeps most of them. And some flowers that have opened up recently too. And then last but not least, on the left, we have our Bear's Persian lime. This one also has some fruits that are growing. More flowers coming through. Good little plant for us. And that's it. Thank you for watching.